Thank you for coming to the channel. In this video today, we are going to unload, disassemble, reassemble, and reload this Daniel Defense here. Before we touch the gun, a couple things to think about are safety rules. The safety rules are treat every gun as if it was loaded, never point at anything you do not intend to shoot, keep your finger straight off the trigger until you're ready to fire, keep the gun on safe until you intend to fire. Extra credit, know your target, what lies beyond, have positive identification of target. Another thing to think about is order of operations, which is what happens whenever you put a magazine into the gun and you slap the bolt release. So order of operations are feeding, chambering, locking, firing, unlocking, extracting, ejecting, cocking. I know that's kind of quick, just look up order of operations. There's plenty of stuff out there on it. It's what happens inside of the gun whenever you pull the trigger, or really whenever you throw the magazine in and you start to pull the bolt back. Sorry for the interruption. I lost the part where I explained at no point in time during the unloading, disassemble, or reassemble do you pull the trigger or take the gun off a safe. I just wanted to make sure that we were clear there. Back to the video. First thing we got to do is treat every gun as if it was loaded. We know this one's loaded because I loaded it. But if you're messing with yours, you know, I would, even if the magazine's out of it, we were going to assume that it's loaded. Make sure that it's on safe. Next step is to remove the magazine source or the ammunition source. So we press the mag release, remove the ammunition source. We're still not unloaded yet though, because there's potentially a round in the magazine. So the next thing that you'd want to do is take your bolt release and pull it to the rear. So we're just gonna nice and easily not try to throw this across the room. There we go. So while you stop positive control of the bolt release, press your bolt catch. So it's the bottom part of this paddle looking thing right here on the left side of the gun. Press the bottom part of it, and now our bolt's locked to the rear. So what you want to do now is ensure the gun's unloaded. So the way that we're going to do that is observe the chamber with our eyes and with our hands. So we're going to look at the chamber and say, okay, does it look like we're seeing that in there or not? If you don't see this in there, that's a good sign. So we don't see anything. Take your finger, make sure that nothing's in there. We're straight. All right. Send your bolt home by pressing your bolt release. And what we're going to do again, after the magazine or after the ammunition source is removed, is we're going to ensure that it's unloaded again. So again, pull your bolt release to the rear while pressing your bolt catch. Lock your bolt back to the rear and observe the chamber one more time. Make sure it's unloaded. Check it with your pinky. If there's two people and you're cleaning guns together or whatever, usually what I'll do is I'll check it. I'll pass it off to my buddy. My buddy will give me his rifle. We'll lock the bolt back and we'll check each other's. And then we'll say, okay, you're good. And then we'll pass it off again. So at this point, we want to take it apart. We've ensured multiple times that the chamber's empty and the gun's unloaded because we don't want to shoot anything on accident, or we don't want a negligent discharge, right? So we're empty, right? Still on safe, still haven't pulled the trigger. Don't need to because it's not a part of how this works really. So the next thing you do, you know you're unloaded, you got the gun right here. How are we gonna break it down even further? The answer is this little button right here. If you guys can see, there's two bolts or two like push pins that connect the upper receiver to the lower receiver. What we're gonna do, the way that I do it at least, is I press this button by the buffer tube and we pull it. So you press it with your thumb or whatever finger you feel like, or a punch, and you get on this side and you pull it. So now we have a gun or a rifle or whatever you want to call it that's broken down. I always refer to this as shotgun style because it looks like a 12 gauge break barrel shotgun. The way that I usually go about it, I guess, is I take the parts out of the upper receiver and then I take the buffer tube or buffer spring and buffer out of the bottom. So the way we do this is we pull the charging handle back. As you can see, my bolt just kind of was like slid out of there. There's the bolt carrier group. There's our charging handle. So there's nothing else really to this upper part. And just for funsies, we'll take the upper receiver off the lower receiver. So now there's no way for this thing to do anything, right? Now we have the lower receiver. What we can do here is press this was this a retention pin? Press it in and release our buffer spring and buffer. I never have a problem with this until I try to make a video on it. There. I've never had to do that in my life, and I've done this a million times. I've never used my other hand like this. Whatever. Anyway, so buffer and buffer spring. All right. So there we go. We're pretty Gucci right now, as the kids say. So you want to take apart your bolt next, and this is the big scary part that everybody hates doing. It's really not that big of a deal, but the first thing you want to do is pull out your firing pin here, or not firing pin. Geez, this is the firing pin in here. This is a retention pin that holds the firing pin in there. So you pull that little guy out. This is the only one I've ever had a problem with. I've had a lot of bolt carriers, and this is the only retention pin that's ever been hard to put back in. I don't know why that is, but next step, you just smack it on the table or on the ground or wherever you got, and take your firing pin out. It's kind of dirty. All right, next thing you want to do is take this little guy out here. Whenever you first take it apart, it's going to be turned like so. You got to turn it sideways, push your bolt in, take it out of the side. If you've ever had a Lego or anything, you'll probably figure it out. So you got your bolt carrier group with your components, and then your bolt. A little tip here is on the bolt. We were talking about order of operations earlier. This is the part that extracts the round. This is the part that ejects the round. So whenever you go to reassemble the bolt, in the opposite order that we just took it apart, you put your extractor about 45 degrees to the right side of the bolt, and that's going to be about where your hole is to put your retention pin back in. If you look at these bolts, I don't know if every bolt's like this. Every bolt that I remember having has been like this, but the part that works doesn't have a scallop around the hole, so you can stick it in there. The part that doesn't fit has a scallop around the north and south end of the hole, so you physically can't put the retention pin in there. So it's tapered, I believe. So anyway, little tip there. 45 degrees extractor. There we go. Our hole's already lined up, so we're good to go. Put our retention pin in north to south, and then you turn it east to west, right? Because it's a rectangle. And now you're ready to put your bolt in. So again, retention pin has to go in like this to get past the gas tube or gas port or whatever that thing's called. And then boom. So we're good to go now. Firing pin. I've gotten away with it before. Well, there we go. I just did it. You can put it in like that. Sometimes if you can't angle it right, you have to drop it in through the top, but it is what it is. Second one, or last one here, you put your retention pin in. See what I'm saying? It's hard to put in. I don't know why. There we go. I've never had a problem putting these retention pins back in. These little pins. And this one I do. So maybe I just got a poopy pin. You put this back together, you want to make sure this is back together correct, right? So the way that you do that is you firmly grasp it on the bottom. You flick it out, and then take it, press it against your chest like that. I don't know if I'm in the shot here. Against your chest, but that's my shoulder, but you get the point. You flick it out. Right, do that a couple times. If your firing pin didn't fall out, if your bolt didn't fall out, and your pins didn't fall out, you're good to go. So to put it back in the rifle, we're going to reassemble now. To put it back in the rifle, you have to have the bolt fully extended for it to go in right. So we take the upper receiver, we take our charging handle. If you look at the charging handle, there's these little guys right here. They're little, I don't know what those little ramps, I don't know. They're things on the side, little wings. There's little wings on the inside of this track right here. So you have to insert the charging handle just a little bit. I'd say maybe about 3/4 inch to where it'll fall in with the little wings, and then you push it the rest of the way. Now you can't lift up on it because those wings have sat in the track and they've moved forward, so now they can't get out. Take your bolt carrier group. The bolt's fully extended. You have to have your this little guy here where the gas comes back and blows the bolt back, rides right inside of the charging handle. So you just marry them up like that and stick them in there. So in order to put the upper receiver on the lower receiver, this bolt has to be flush with the upper receiver. So it's all the way in there, your charging handle's locked into place, your bolt's all the way forward, it's not going anywhere, your charging handle's not going anywhere. And we reassemble the lower receiver. So all there is to this is you put, the way that I do it at least, I put my buffer into my buffer spring and make sure that it's seated, which this thing is just giving me. All right, so there we go. We're seated all the way around the top. And then, there we go. Good to go. So again, we're gonna do shotgun style first. So we take the upper pin and the upper receiver, place them on there, push it through. Now we're attached. You know, fold it down like that and then press that bolt through. So now we're together. I would say functions check the gun, but before we do that, we're gonna lock the bolt back and ensure that the gun's unloaded. We're gonna look, make sure you put your finger in there. I know maybe sometimes it seems monotonous, but it's more important to take 5 seconds to make sure the gun's unloaded than to accidentally shoot a hole through your wall or through your window or through somebody on accident. So send your bolt home, lock it back again. Yep, still unloaded, everything's good. Nothing's in there. So after you've ensured multiple times that the gun's unloaded, you know that it's unloaded, you want to still point it in a safe direction. In my case, it's at a tree in my front yard. There's no houses that way, there's nothing that way. So even if this gun was loaded and I shot right now, I would have a hole in my screen in my window, and that would probably be about it. Anyway, so we're unloaded, we're sure we're unloaded. We're gonna functions check is what we're about to do. We're gonna make sure that we put everything back together the right way. So ensure that your bolt's forward. Bolt's forward. We're gonna take the gun off safe. We're gonna point in a safe direction. We're gonna slowly press the trigger until we hear the clunk or the click. Now that we hear the click, keep your finger pressed on the trigger, cycle the gun, meaning pull the charging handle, cycle the bolt back and then forward. You should hear a clunk when you slowly release the trigger. So it's more of a click, but it's a clunk usually. Anyway, press the trigger again until you hear the shooty shoot. Click, cycle it again. Should hear a clunk, clunk, and then click. So all I'm doing is simulating the gun shooting. So the gun is shot, I reset the trigger, I pull the trigger to shoot again, it shoots, the bolt comes back, the bolt goes forward, I reset the trigger, clunk, I shoot the gun again, click. So that's all we're doing. If you put the gun together wrong, it will not do this. If you put it together right, it will. So now we have a fully reassembled gun, right? And we functions checked it, made sure it's good to go. Now we're going to load the gun back because we want to potentially use it sometime in the future. What I would do is I usually load, if whatever magazine I'm going to put in the gun, I'll put 30 rounds in because one's going to be in the chamber. I like to have my magazines with 29 rounds in the magazine just because it's easier to seat the magazine whenever you're flicking them in and out. So we're going to firmly grasp it, stick the source of ammunition in the magazine well. We're going to ensure that it's seated by pulling back and forth and see how it wasn't. And now it is. Back and forth, wiggle, wiggle. It's in there and it coming out. Now, this is the part that most people mess up, at least the new people. Grab the charging handle, we'll do it like this because we're practicing good safety rules here. Grab the charging handle, pull to the rear, and let go. If you ease the charging handle forward, you could potentially cause a jam because the force of the bolt and the spring back here in the buffer tube isn't assisting the round completely into the chamber. It's not fully seating, it's not locking, and it's not ready for you to fire. So anyway, pull the charging handle back, release it, let the bolt and the charging handle go forward. Now the round's in the chamber. We think. What some people do, what I have the habit of doing is pressure checking or brass checking. So what we're gonna do is, you know, not touching the trigger or anything. We're gonna slowly pull the bolt to the rear and ensure that we can see brass inside of the chamber. Let the bolt forward and tap our forward assist to ensure that the bolt is fully seated and locked into position. After we do that, we close the injection port cover and we're good to go. So now the gun is loaded, it's on safe, it's ready to go. If you take it off the safe and press the trigger, it's gonna shoot. So I hope that this video helped somebody. I hope that it was educational. If you want to see any more videos, please comment and tell me how I did. And I've done a lot of videos in the past, but for some reason I still get nervous and when I do these videos. So thank you for watching it to the end. If you've made it this long, comment GAT piece. That used to be a sarcastic thing I used to say because guns are called GATs and they're also called pieces, but I used to call them GAT pieces because I just thought it was funny and everybody else thought it was stupid. But if you've made it this long, comment GAT piece in the comment section so I know you watched the whole thing, and then I can holler at you in the comments, son. All right, so anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Thanks for watching this instructional video brought to you by the channel that is the Migsy Bear. So thank you, folks. See you in the next one. Bye.